It's on. And the Washington County Quorum Court is now called into session. Good evening. Good to see so many folks out today, and we've got a lot on the agenda. We're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. J.P. Pond, will you lead us in prayer and pledge?
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to come here and serve the people of Washington County. I'd like to make a special request for Jaden. Be having some surgery early in the morning. Miss Andrea's son, and also that Andrea and her husband have safe travels down to Little Rock to be with him. Just that everything can go well, and all in your hands. We just pray that this evening that we would mind you as we in our conduct and our decisions, what we say and do here, that it might be pleasing to you, that we take and use your holy word for guidance as it has been a good source for leading us into a prosperous country. All these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. If I need, I'll grab. Okay. Thank you, J.P. Pond. We will go ahead and look to adopt the agenda. We have one item that we need to amend the agenda and have on there. An appeal has been filed on the CUP for the Elevate Elite, and with that being an appeal, that will be now pushed to the April meeting, so we need to have it removed from tonight's agenda. So I would entertain a motion to remove that off the agenda.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with the amendment of removing the elite training facility off.
And a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the amended agenda and a second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, preliminary motions. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I move that we suspend the rules and read ordinances and anything else by title only tonight.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Second. As a second by J.P. Bowman. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, that passes. Citizen comments. This is the opportunity. We have 15 minutes dedicated for the citizens of the county to come and visit with us, share some of their concerns or some of the things that they would like to highlight as things that we're doing well, things that we need to work on. We can do that. I also know that many of you are here for a certain agenda items, so we can wait till then and you'll have an opportunity to visit with us at that time. But this is your citizen comments time. Citizen comments? Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mack, state your name, where you're from.
My name is Mac Childs. I live in the Greenboro neighborhood.
Push that button right there in the
Oh,
there you go.
I was never good with anything with fancy things like buttons.
So say it again, Mr. Childs, Mac Childs, and where you live?
My name is Mac Childs. I live in the Greenboro neighborhood. I appreciate the people who are here tonight, both the people who are doing this as a job and the people who are here to protect their homes and their families and their health. I was really excited when I heard Justice Pond say that he hoped we would use the Word of God for our guidelines. Now, what we're dealing with is an instance of a business coming into a neighborhood. Now, if you'll look on the number 10 Heritage Farms, one of the things it says is proposed here, the proposed land use is a haul road and red dirt pit operations. Now, if anybody's looked at this, the road that's there is a haul road. We've heard both the Planning Commission, I believe the developer, in quotes, himself, referring to this as a haul road. So the haul road's been built, so you're being asked to give him your blessing after the fact. He didn't come to you hat in hand and ask you to permit a haul road, and after you permitted it, then built it. He's built it, now he's daring you not to approve his haul road. He's saying that it would stand in the way of progress, and we heard a certified geologist tell us that there's a lot of this construction dirt all over our area. There's a bunch of it available. So to act like this one pit not being approved would hurt construction in our area is truly ludicrous. Yes, we need progress. Yes, we need construction, but we need good neighbors. This man very clearly stated on national public radio
that he was going to be a good neighbor, end quotes.
Well, he's saying he'll be a good neighbor, but he said that if somebody tried to put something like this next to his house, that he'd probably push back too. Now, is that a good neighbor? I would ask you to ask that. I believe that every single person that's looking at me right now takes their job seriously. I don't have any doubt about it. I'd ask you to think about what your job title is, and it's Justice of the Peace. And that name is an old English title. It goes back a long way. And if there's not justice, we can't have peace.
Okay, Mr. Child. Okay, that's your time.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other citizen comments? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Barney Newby.
Speak into your mic, so say it again, Barney Newby.
Barney Newby. I live on Draper
Move your mic
Road.
so we can hear you. The microphone. Come up some and speak into the microphone.
Okay.
There you go.
I live on Draper Road, and I speak against the Heritage Cup Farm. Draper Road is a dirt street through a residential area, and it's a dead-end road. For months now, Heritage Farm has used that as a freeway, moving their log trucks and dump trucks up and down it. Now, this being a dead-end road, it is 10.5 foot wide, it is 11 foot wide, not acceptable to commercial truck traffic. And I can give you a prime example of that. Say, on certain days, there's been as many as 75 log trucks and dump trucks come up and down Draper Road, when Elkhorn Road is what they were supposed to be using. Now, you have a dump truck or a log truck break down on Draper Road, you're looking at an hour and a half waiting on a wrecker to move it. Draper Road is closed. If my neighbor needed a fire engine, he couldn't get it. They tell me that seconds and minutes is crucial for a heart attack or a stroke. Draper Road's closed. Or for instance, say it's a beautiful morning. I get up, tell my wife I want to go fishing. She's got gardening planned. She goes to bouncing coffee cups off my head. I take off running, trip over an ottoman, and break a leg. I cannot get assistance because Draper Road is closed. My next thing is the extreme danger of Highway 16. I have worked driving 18-wheelers. I have over 4 million miles of safe, accident-free. I drive for McKee Foods, better known as Little Debbie's. Little Debbie's give classroom training to all of their drivers in accident prevention, what causes accidents, and how to avoid it. I have hundreds of hours of this training, and I can tell you the impact dump trucks entering Highway 16 off of Elkhorn Road will have to the driving public, from traffic going into Fayetteville, from the working public, from the kids in high school, from college students, because I have seen what happens. And I'll give you a prime example. A dump truck coming off of Elkhorn Road turning onto 16 will be doing 5 miles per hour when it straightens out. the top of the hill to said dump truck, you have a window of 6 minutes before impact. When the dump truck entered Elkhorn Road, he's going toward Fayetteville. You've got 1 mile incline. The dump truck's not going to reach maximum speed till somewhere half a mile to a mile on that incline. In this period of time, you back up all traffic coming behind you.
Okay. Thank you,
We
Mr.
have
Newby.
become a
Your time. Thank you, Mr. Newby. Any other citizen comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and look at, somebody else is coming? Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Judge.
Yep.
Councilman. My name is Lou Reed Sharp. I live at 1739 Steel in Tawnytown. I've gotten involved with the dirt farm and actually went out there and toured the site. You know, I ran for office over in this area and I heard a lot about the dirt farms. I was absolutely, and I've been to neighborhood meetings, I've listened to the neighbors, I've emailed the JPs. I absolutely was astounded at the amount of work that had been done out there on this property when in fact they'd been turned down by the planning board and didn't get their permit until February. The day I went out there, a bulldozer, a big truck, had to come move rocks out of the way so that we could even go up the private deeded road to go look at this gentleman's property. I mean, it was steep and deep, and I was also shocked at the amount of soil erosion coming down off of the mountains where the logs had been cleared and stuff, and that all drains right into the Illinois watershed. And so I have deep concerns about the water quality in that area and if we've done the right environmental studies. So I hope as Quorum Court members that you all will listen to the neighbors that live in this area, because in fact I live on Clear Creek in south of Tawnytown, and you know that river you can't drink out of anymore. So we don't want that happening to the Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Any other citizen comments?
Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Strong. I live at 15012 Draper, and I'd like to comment more about the traffic. There'll be several conversations tonight about different items, but one of my main concerns is the traffic between 49 and Elkhorn and Draper. There's an accident nearly every day on Weddington, and 150 more truck trips a day will do nothing but congest that area for the safety of our citizens. That's what I have to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Strong. Any other citizen comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and move to item, we had someone else? All right. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeremiah Estes. I live on Highway 16, not far from the Greenboro County Road. I would just ask that this body consider heavily the precedent they set in our county for people who go in and do permitted work, developments, without permits to do so. Permits from this body, permits from ADEQ, permits that are required to do this sort of work. When I drove down there and saw the road that had been put in and the dust baffles, I was blown away that no permits had been issued at that time. And this was the end of the year of 2018. Not only had this body not approved it, but ADEQ had not approved it either, not that was shown in record. And so I'd like y'all all to please consider that and what other developers are going to think in the future when they decide to do something and don't consult this body first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremiah. Citizen comments? Okay. Approval of the minutes?
I move approval of the minutes.
All right, J.P. Madison, approval of the minutes. Second by J.P. Deacons. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, minutes are passed. Judge report, briefly, in your packet, you should have the disposal report. There was no items in February that needed to be disposed. I do want to say thank you to many of you guys around the county and JPs who reached out and said, hey, happy birthday, Judge. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's always fun getting older and you get those calls and digs. But thank you very much. Today, JP Ecke, I think it's your birthday. JP Bowman, I think you got a birthday around the corner. So anyway, a big birthday month as we celebrate spring and obviously spring break. Last week, and I just want to acknowledge U of A, Judge Beaumont, myself, we kicked off Opioid Awareness Week last week, and the gravity of what's going on in our country in regard to opioid, the government is last year earmarked $6 billion to raise awareness and really work towards minimizing, reducing, and eliminating the prescription drug crisis that's ravaging our country. Not only is it across the country, in fact, I was on a conference call with the White House government this week talking about that, and they're really highlighting a number of the states. All 50 states now have done a lot of work towards this opioid epidemic. Arkansas has been flagged as one of these stars as far as really engaged in trying to do something, Attorney General, and then they issued another $1 billion added on to the $6 billion that they put out. But to go on the campus and see the students really look to get engaged, working with the state, many universities got together and really started trying to figure out how can we save our fellow students, because it's not just adults out living in the rural. It's right here on our campus. It's right here in our Northwest Arkansas region. So again, I just ask that as we as a county, we look at our fellow citizens and neighbors when it comes to why so many people are moving toward prescription drug. Is pain, and then what happens thereafter. And so with that being said, we are real proud of the U of A students and their real focus on raising awareness and getting students involved. They have liaisons on campus who are in their mental health capacity, and we'll be working with them as we look at our crisis stabilization unit, which is my other update. The crisis stabilization unit, again, is one diversion mechanism that the state is looking at. We have 4 of them being looked to be built in the state. 2 of them are open. We're looking to have ours still targeted for June 15th. But to have this really support and help our mental health community, and to have some of those students at the university who's interested in this as a study, as counseling, or as clinicians, psychiatrists, what have you, that we would have a mental health facility to kind of help in that regard. And really the big one is to divert folks from going into our county jail, because we would have a crisis stabilization unit to move people who may have a mental episode, mental break, as opposed to bringing them to our county jail. We can bring them to the crisis stabilization unit. So that's moving forward. Next month, JPs, I'll be bringing a confirmation of a committee. Part of having a crisis stabilization unit, you have to have a criminal justice coordinating committee, and this committee is to really look at the data that is being developed and pulled together for the crisis stabilization unit, because we had to turn that data in once a month to the state. Part of the grant is to turn in data. The state wants to know how is the crisis stabilization working, what's the impact, what's the effectiveness. June of 2021, they will look at all 4 of the crisis stabilization units, all the data that's been collected over that time, and make a call. Have we seen some impact? We guesstimate that we'll have about 2,000 people go through the crisis stabilization unit here in Northwest Arkansas in a year. That's 2,000 people who didn't go to the county jail. Well, what does that look like in way of fiscal impact? What does that look like in manpower, et cetera? And if that really shows the data, then they would look at the legislators to let's extend that grant monies, and in fact let's open up more of those as a way, again, helping those in our community, but as a way of also diverting folks and getting them the help they need as opposed to sending them to jail. So that's where we are on the Crisis Stabilization Unit. I'll bring that committee. We'll have that for you, and there'll be members from the mental health community, obviously members from our criminal justice system, and then people representing the catchment area, the county judge or the sheriff in the Madison County, Benton County, Carroll County areas also be a part of that committee. So anyway, we'll have that for you next month to confirm those members. Lastly, the energy audit. Last year, before the new court came in, the former Quorum Court looked at having Johnson Controls come in and do an energy audit of the county. How can we do better in way of our water usage, our power usage, our lights, and that, and so they have gone forth working with the sheriff's office and my office. So next month they'll be coming to county services to talk about their findings and their proposal, as well as going to the Finance and Budget Committee to look at what is the pleasure of the court. So that'll be coming up in the next 2 months, next 2 meetings. County services as well as finance and budget. That's what I have for the judge's report. We'll go ahead and move to item 8. Okay, well, thank you. Unfinished business, item 8. J.P. Harbison had a memorial service. She'll be here a little later. J.P. Deacons, will you pick up for J.P. Harbison?
Thank you, Judge. Counselor Lester, will you read this by title only, please?
Item 8 is an emergency ordinance recognizing additional revenues of $82,701 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund and appropriating the amount of $82,701 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the SCAP 2017 budget for 2019.
This is on the second reading, so go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. This is, like the judge is saying, it's a second reading from last month's meeting. I know there were some questions between my colleagues about the participation in 287G and how that affects these monies. I hope that we've gotten our questions answered, and I want to reiterate that this is money that the Sheriff's Department has expended already on upholding the law in Washington County, and I hope to get this money into the Sheriff's Department so they can continue their good work and get the equipment that they need. So I make a motion that we pass this tonight as written.
Second.
It's on the second read, so it'll go to next month for the third read unless you guys ask for.
Move to suspend the rules and read the third time by title only.
A second, yeah.
So there's been a motion to suspend the rules, read for a third, seconded by J.P. Ecke. The ordinance that was just here. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. All right, Ms. Patty, can we do a roll on the suspension of the rule?
Do a roll call.
Okay. Judith Yanez. No. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
No.
Andrea Jenkins. No. Suki Hires.
No.
Sue Madison. No. Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison, or Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
So the motion does not pass. It'll roll to the next month. Item 9, J.P. Bowman. Well, in fact, I think that was removed at the beginning, right? That was scratched, okay. Item 10. This is the appeal, the Heritage Farm. We'll go ahead and work through this. Some introductory remarks by our planning team. After that, we'll have some remarks by the different agencies, if any are here, and then we'll go ahead and open that to the public. So, Director Crouch.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Patty, can you put me on the TVs here, please? And out front as well.
Not yet.
See me up here?
We see you.
Okay, thank you.
In the corner. There we go.
Okay, the Heritage Farms Dirt Pit CUP appeal. The proposed Heritage Farms red dirt mine is located just west of Fayetteville, off Highway 16 down Greenboro Road. The property has been logged for the last few years as indicated by the network of roads you see in this aerial image. And this is the plan of the pre-development condition of the property within the existing private roads. Excuse me, with the existing private roads. The parcels which this development proposes to utilize are outlined here in red. The site plan shows the area to be mined, the phases in which the applicant is proposing to complete the mining, and those acreages totaling approximately 19.1 acres. The applicant has stated there will be no blasting, and so that is a condition of approval. This plan shows the access entrance off Greenboro Road. The berms are intended to buffer the sound and dust at the top of the hill. There are no berms running north to south in this design due to the natural slope of the land, providing similar buffering characteristics as the berms themselves. In plan view, the berms meet the standard. These diagrams show the design standards for entrance buffers and hillside cuts. The entrance berms must meet this code requirement once the haul road construction is complete. The bottom diagrams show the maximum slopes allowed for hillside cut and rock cut scenarios. The maximum slope will be 3-to-1 at reclamation for hillside cuts, whereas a steeper 1-to-1 slope is allowed when cutting directly into bare rock. However, as this development isn't requesting to blast into the bedrock, all final slopes shall be 3-to-1, or 33.3% slope upon reclamation. These final slopes will be evaluated by ADEQ during the reclamation process at the end of each phase's lifespan. The berms have been constructed, then modified due to carving the haul road deeper into the ground. The modification cut into the berm's side slope, rendering it non-compliant with the 3-to-1 side slope requirement. The berms must have 3-to-1 side slopes upon final inspection. This photo was taken about mid-February, and then this photo taken 1 month later shows the berm has been repaired. Final slope must be certified by the engineer at final large-scale development phase of review. The image on top is a cross-section of the center line of the proposed haul road. Pre-development and post-development conditions are shown. Upon final inspection, the maximum slope of the haul road may not exceed 10%, or 10-to-1 slope. This photo shows where the neighbor's access easement enters the subject property from the north. The two red lines, which I'm pointing to with the mouse right here, indicate the fence posts at both sides of the gate, just to give you a location so you can see the fence. Planning staff mapped the legal description of the access easement as it crosses the Reed and Heritage Farms properties. The easement is indicated by the dark blue line, and it appears to be described accurately. The red arrows shown here indicate the existing private road access easement extending to the south. This is the only existing access to the southern neighbor's property. This photo shows the site distance to the north from the haul road. Site distance was calculated at 431 feet, which is adequate for the posted 25-mile-per-hour speed zone. This photo shows site distance to the south from the haul road, which was calculated at 421 feet, which is also adequate. Here's a photo of one of the narrow sections of Greenboro Road. And this map indicates all of the properties inside the 1/2 mile neighbor notification buffer. There were 96 notification letters mailed out. The same properties are shown here in blue, with the red properties indicating the neighbors who submitted public comment forms in opposition to this proposal as of March 11th. Public comment forms were submitted from beyond the neighbor notification buffer area as well. Each public comment form was logged and the sender added to the master neighbor list. Due to this, the notification master list has grown from 96 to 149. Planning staff has received 169 opposed comments from 115 people. Also shown on this map are the other mines and quarries in the area. All the way out west, over here, there is a topsoil mining operation. Up north is another red dirt mine. Just northeast of the project, right here, there's an inactive red dirt mine that is currently under reclamation. And farther to the east is the Hunt Rogers quarry over here, which is active. And the big red dirt farm next door to it which has been inactive for some time. The opposed comments cite many concerns, but staff has categorized the stated concerns to health, dust, water quality, ecology, quality of life, property value, noise, safety, roads, and not specified. At the December 6, 2018 Planning Board meeting, at staff's recommendation, the Planning Board voted to table this CUP request to give the applicant additional time to address compatibility concerns from the community, the stormwater drainage report, and the maximum slope of the Hall Road. The applicant wrote individual letters to 43 neighbors who had submitted public comment forms up to that point. The applicant categorized the opposition from the comment forms and then discussed their plans in the letters. Additionally, Heritage Farms has agreed to pave the Hall Road as well as the county road from the subject property south to Elkhorn Springs Road to address the dust and safety issues cited in the public comment forms. As stated in the plans, a water truck is required to be on site while the mine is in operation to wet the truckloads of red dirt before they leave the mine to further mitigate the dust issue. Dump trucks will only approach and exit the property from and to the south via Greenboro Road to Elkhorn Springs Road, and these are all conditions of approval. So we'll look at the code. According to section 11-200, there are 7 criteria that must be met to approve conditional use permits. The first 3 criteria are, number 1, that an application is on file and the fee has been paid. Number 2, the neighbors have been notified by certified mail in accordance with section 11-204. And number 3, that adequate utilities, roads, drainage, and other public services are available and adequate, or will be made available and adequate if the use is granted. These 3 requirements have all been objectively met. The remaining criteria, all subjective, are as follows. Number 4, that the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area. Number 5, that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. Number 6, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the surrounding area for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the surrounding area. And number 7, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding area for uses permitted in the zone. Then, the code goes on to state that, quote, if it is determined that there exist conditions that could be imposed by the board that would significantly lessen the impact of the aforestated, then the board has the power to impose said conditions which shall be specifically set forth, end quote. And after all this, due to the high impact nature of this proposed use, in addition to the lack of an objective procedure for assessing compliance with those subjective compatibility requirements, staff withholds a recommendation for the proposed Heritage Farms high-impact conditional use permit. Rather, planning staff urges the court to listen to the members of the community in attendance here tonight who claim the proposed use is not compatible based on the impact this dirt pit may force upon them. And also listen to the applicant's claim that the proposed use is compatible based on the need for red dirt as a building material due to Fayetteville's growth. Once both sides of the issue have addressed the quorum court, please weigh the facts to determine for yourselves that the proposal has met the compatibility requirements. Thank you, and I'll take your questions at this time.
J.P. Pine.
Yes, sir. Nathan, you mentioned you have a 10% grade on the Hall Road,
Yes, sir.
and you also brought up the neighbor's access easement. Where that Hall Road crosses the neighbor's access easement, what would you imagine that grade is where they have to climb that bank over the Hall Road and down the other side?
J.P. Pond, that's a good question. I haven't calculated that slope. I can get that information and get it to you, but I don't have that information at this time.
Could that not have been another grade that should have been, the grade on that cross, where they cross that access road? Could they have not made some approaches or something there and made that grade not so steep for the neighbor? on his existing easement?
I believe many scenarios could be possible, but I'm not sure what the applicant and the southern property owner down there have discussed, and whether either one of them is on board for such a thing.
Well, that would be a suggestion of a condition that I would like to make, if we at least have some cooperation between the individual that has that easement and the developer. Thank you.
J.P. Duncan.
I'd have to echo J.P. Pond's comments. I went out and toured the site with Marty, who's the southern property owner, and even in like a four-wheel drive F-150, it was difficult to take that bank at that steep of a height. And I'm wondering if someone were to want to build back there, I have no idea how you could possibly get trailers and other vehicles back there to actually add to the property, which is number 7 on section 11-200. So if that's a consideration, I would say that that access easement needs to be more easily accessible. Thank you.
Let me clarify, the maximum 10% grade comes from the state fire code, for what it's worth.
J.P. Jenkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to clarify, or to answer your question, J.P. Pond, I spoke with the landowner, and the landowner has stated that he tried several times to get a hold of the Heritage Farm people and was unable to do so. And as I know, as of right now, he can't even get over the slope anymore. So, thank you.
J.P. Ecke, and then J.P. Johnson.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Nathan, for your presentation. I'm a visual person, and I'm just trying to recollect the maps, all the maps that I've seen on this particular property, because this property has been sold since the first time, I guess, a CUP tried to be obtained by the county way, maybe 4 years ago. But there was an issue, and I don't know if it still exists, with the school bus. I'm getting yes from the citizens, that the curve and the slope where the school bus comes is where one of the exits or entrances to the proposed farm is. Has that been changed by Heritage Farms, or is it still existing? I mean, if you can answer that question, please.
Is your question
about the school bus, number 1, and the entrance to Heritage Farm?
The entrance to the Heritage Farms site does come right off the county road.
And on that county road, that is where the school bus, I get the parents saying that it is where the children are.
I'm not sure of where the bus stops are, but I do know that the school bus goes up and down that road.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to remember the maps that I've seen on there, because I do believe there was they showed where the school bus comes around. It's kind of like a blind curve and slopes down, and right as it slopes down, that is where back then the proposed entrance to the dirt pit was, and that was one of my concerns, was the school children's safety. Now, if that has changed and that issue has been addressed, if you could share with me and the rest of this court, what has the owner done to ensure the safety of the school children? Thank you, Mr. Judge.
And thank you for your question, J.P. Ecke. The applicant has agreed to pave the county road from the dirt pit Hall Road location, including the Hall Road itself, out to the county road, all the way south down to the next paved road. That way dump trucks won't be driving on dirt road. This will potentially mitigate the dust. And as far as what have they done to make the school bus route and the school bus stops safer, he has written a letter to the property owners, all of the property owners that had commented in opposition up until that point. and it was 43 at that time. And he wrote letters to them discussing his plans and assuring them that he was a family man and a parent and grandfather, and their safety was very important to him as well. But tangibly, he's agreed to pave the road, and paving it and building it up to county road standard is going to involve smoothing out some of the sharper corners and widening the paved road surface. Along that county road, there's a certain amount of right-of-way that the county road already has to be able to play with, and to construct in. And all of that upgrading of Greenboro Road would be done within that county road right-of-way.
I would really, really like specifics on exactly where the school bus stops. And if y'all want to get it for us, that's fine. If not, Mr. Crouch can get it for us. And where that entrance or exit is to the farms, if we can see exactly where it is, what the improvements are. And I think it was a line of sight also had something to do with that, whether or not the coming down. Like I said, I don't have the maps. I'm just basing this off of recollection.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to make sure I'm remembering the correct map, and I'm not out in Tawnytown. But that would help quite a bit. But that was one of the reasons why last time I didn't approve this, is because the children's safety came first. So if we can see that we are trying to work in a neighborly way and answer questions, that's what I'd like to know. Thank you.
Okay, J.P. Johnson.
Yeah, Nathan, I want to back up to the question of the easement, the access road. Am I correct? Is there a piece of property that's landlocked within this property?
Yes, sir. He owns both, though. He owns this property here. Can you see the screen here? Almost. This property is where the dirt pit will be, and indeed, it is landlocked from the county road. But he also owns this little piece of property here, and this is where he will be coming across.
Who is he?
Pardon me, sir. The applicant, the owner of the business.
I'm sorry, I can't talk and hear at the same time on this system. The easement and the slope of the road on that easement what is that to get to? Is that to get to somebody else's property?
Yes. That's that easement that goes across the property to the blueberry farm.
The one that J.P. Duncan was discussing a moment ago, where with the four-wheel drives and they wouldn't be able to pull trailers up there, that is the access easement to get to the blueberry farm. That one goes north to south, but the Hall Road is what that access easement has to cross up the hill and back down. The Hall Road is the one that has the 10% maximum grade because it's a commercial road.
So the other access is to a blueberry farm that has no other access? Is that?
That's correct.
Indeed. Yes, sir.
J.P. Hires.
In answer to both of the questions that you guys just both asked, we had an email from the group, and they've got the packets in their hands that actually address everything that you're wondering. So they've got packets for us that they're going to hand out. But you have an email in your inbox.
Good, excellent. Well, with that then, if there's no, we're going to go ahead and get the, go ahead. J.P. Yanez.
Hey, Nathan. Kind of curious, should any of this work have been started without a CUP?
That is a good question for our county attorney, ma'am.
Okay.
Not to throw that in your lap, Brian.
I don't know what, I've not been out there to see what work's been done. The thing about it is, when people own property, if they want to go out and move dirt around on their own property and do things, and it's not being done for a commercial purpose and it's being done for them, they're well within their legal rights to do so. This court in the county has zoned all the areas in the county, and if you're wanting to change that zoning, then you are required to come and get a permit. And so when it comes to doing things on your own land, even if you're removing dirt for your own purpose and you're not selling it, or you're not creating a dirt mine or a rock quarry or anything like that, you are within your rights to move that dirt. And I say that because I have no idea what has been done. I've never been out to this property, not seen any pictures or anything like that.
Any other ones before we, any agencies here, Nathan?
None that I know of, sir.
Okay.
However, we have a few, the citizens behind me have given me presentations, and they're already loaded on my laptop, ready to go. And so they'll be giving these presentations when they come up.
Okay, so from an order standpoint, we're going to go to supporters of the project. Oh, well, we got the applicant. Let the applicant come, then it'll be supporters of, and then it'll be those who are in opposition of. So let's do that first. The applicant or their designee, are they here? Oh, there you go. Good evening.
Good evening to you. I'm the applicant. I left my horns and my pitchfork in the truck, but my name is Bobby Morris. I've lived here for over 25 years. This is my son, and he's my son as well. He married my youngest daughter.
Can I give you all these while he's talking? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to address just a few issues quickly. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to speak. The last meeting I was in, I was educated. I thought people, I've never been hated by so many people that don't know me in my entire life. But be that as it may,
You know your behavior.
I have.
Let the applicant speak.
I get this a lot. So on the way over here, leaving the project, moving on the way over here, the next door neighbor actually gave me the finger. So I'm just, this is what I get over here. And a lot of people they ask about why I no longer am building a home there. First off, the purpose of my property is cattle. I retired, and I have about 400 and some acres on Robinson Road where I am actually building a home. We have approximately 300 head of registered Angus, and we will soon have 300 calves. If you look at the pictures that are going around, I actually took a picture of Miss Eki, that actually shows a lot of what you had and what Mr. Johnson had, questions about the elevation and everything. Actually, Nathan showed the site distance in each direction from the gate. To clarify exactly where we are on Greenboro Road, if you look at some of this information, it says Greenboro Road is 1.8 miles long. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. 1.8 miles long, and we're estimated right in the middle of it. So the people on Draper Road and that intersection 16, this is a zero impact to them, zero. There'll be none of our traffic, none of that, because we have internal roads through the property.
Excuse me, could you repeat the address, you said off of which road again? Has zero impact on the neighbors?
All of Draper Road.
Draper Road.
Is about a mile away.
Is a mile away.
Right, almost a mile away. And if Draper Road is 1.8 miles, as Nathan quoted in his documents to you. The questions about the permitting, I have followed every single requirement from planning, meeting repeatedly with planning, repeated changes to give them what they deem as acceptable or what they need to have to turn around to be requested by the ADQ to come to Little Rock and explain to the ADQ exactly what's going on, even though they had all of the documents. There was complaints, a lot of complaints about trucks and all of that. I own one dump truck, and I really don't get the whole thing of how many dump trucks I have and all of that. But first I want to address the easement issue. There's a temporary easement, you have photos of it, that is cut along the south side of the property.
Show me what that would look like.
Pardon me?
Show me what that would look like, please.
You have
Which
the pictures.
picture? Yeah, but show me what the picture should look like. I've got so many
I
of
got
them.
you, I
I
got
want to
you.
know which one
you give
exactly
me-
are we talking about?
Did you?
I mean, I grew up out in the country, but I haven't been out there in a long
No, I
time.
got you, I got you.
Which one would it be?
Yeah.
So that's
Lisa.
one of them.
JP Aki?
I'm sorry.
Hey,
We
JP
can't-
Morris?
You need to,
Go,
you
you
need
gotta
to
stay there.
You gotta stay in the pulpit.
Okay.
And we're gonna go ahead and let him have his presentation before we ask the JPs to ask questions. So let him go ahead and walk through.
apologize.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, JP Morris.
I totally,
Mr. Morris.
I totally understand. We also brought you the documents from the ADQ where they were everything was applied for, our meetings there. I actually had to fly a team to Little Rock to meet with the ADEQ and every single department in it. So from everything from enforcement to the stormwater and all of that. A lot of the questions to me were, or that the property owners have is, how come I had no permit? The ADQ is much more difficult to deal with than the county, I assure you. But we met the county requirements, or else if you don't, you can't even take it to meeting. So I'm a little confused over that process. But the ADQ issued the stormwater permit. We have, if the prints clearly show the catch ponds, how everything has to be designed, and all of that. They were amused, as your folks' concerns was, about the 10% state law of the road. If you go into other pits around, if they're level, they're level. If they're not, they're not. But I'm being held to a 10%, regardless of what that does to the neighbor who is basically landlocked without my easement, or he has a use easement. So what I've done because of that, and with the pictures, it actually shows you the height. At one point, it's 38 feet high. Okay, that is not my doing. All right, I've spent about almost 200 grand doing this project, not because I wanted to. It was not my idea. That was Nathan and Tyler McCartney, the Washington County Fire Marshal. So I was being compliant to them. I have been compliant to everyone. So having said that, that's the one issue. The other issue is the property value. I brought these appraisals. Dino, Ben. There's a lot of signs up on Draper Road about property values. When I bought the property, this is the appraisal. I apologize, there's only one copy of it, but if you pass that around. The second one is the appraisal of last month. Is that okay? Huh? Say again?
November of 2014, when he purchased the property was.
I got to
worth-
get new batteries.
The property was worth $530,000, according to CBRE appraisal. Sherry Cole, a bank out of West Monroe, Louisiana. According to Farm Credit here in Lincoln, Arkansas, and Tawnytown, Arkansas, January 2018, this same project, which clearly this construction was occurring as far as logging and everything else.
But not part of, the dirt pit was not part of it.
The property value of January 2018 was $1.158 million, more than a 50% increase in 4 years.
Okay. Where is?
Mr. Mayor? You won't go home?
No, I don't need it. I was looking for.
What is it?
I hate to read this letter without the individual being there, but I'm going to. I received this letter, and I will pass it around. It says, I'm going to leave her name off for right now. Okay. Oh. Is it okay if, no. Pardon? I do care about people, regardless of what my reputation has been attacked, and I didn't want to read this without them knowing what I was going to do. But here goes. My name is Roberta Damaris, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous and I can't see real good. I have physically lived at, excuse me. Can you read it? I would rather you read your own letter. I don't feel comfortable for inflection or anything else.
Fine.
Tell us who you are and where you live.
Is it on?
Yes.
All right. My name is Roberta Damaris. I live at 14701 Greenboro Road. I live about 400 yards from the entrance of the proposed dirt pit. My house sits right on the road. Every dump truck going back and forth is going to pass my house. The letter I wrote him said, I was at the last meeting, February 14th. I sat through and heard everyone's concerns and complaints, and I was very grateful for the neighbors that voiced their concerns and stated the facts of why they opposed the dirt pit, because I personally had some of the same concerns. I was embarrassed, ashamed, and angered to be a part of a neighborhood that personally, individually attacked a man that they didn't even know, from some of the comments that was made at the last meeting. And the fact is, I will probably only tell you a handful of people's names that was in that room. They claimed that we were such a close-knit community that everybody knew everybody. I lived out there 30 years, and I did not know probably about 5 people's names that was in that room. So we're hardly a close-knit community. My home, my lifestyle, and my property will be one of the most impacted by this dirt pit if it is approved. But because the main interest is right in front of, every dump truck is going to cross right in front of me. My house sits on the road. Most other people's sits off the road. I said, but I will not oppose this dirt pit because I was ashamed of the personal attacks that was made against Bobby Morris. I didn't know him until that night, but I know the difference between right and wrong. And it's wrong to personally attack someone instead of just stating the facts. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Damaris.
You're welcome.
Okay. I just want to reiterate quickly that I have been compliant with Washington County all the way through the process from the beginning until today. I am compliant with ADQ, EPA, and what have you. Part of one of the issues with the Madlock easement is his easement runs into a protected tributary that is protected and basically a do not use. It's not basically, it's exactly a do not use, do not touch portion of the EPA. I forget, it's a 400 series number is all I remember. But they made it very clear in Little Rock that that's a do not disturb area because it's a protected tributary. I have no idea what he's going to do about that part of his easement, but part of it's on my, part of that green block was on my property, and so I have even complied with the EPA. The property values have went up. I gave you a picture of two of the homes, one on each side of the entrance, and you can see I'm not judging how people live, but we are talking about property values. So if we want to turn it into a business deal, I am more than qualified. I've got over 30 years in finance, and I can definitely assure you that it is not hurting property values. There's less than 12 homes between where the pit is and Elkhorn Springs Road. I don't know those people on the road except for, well, now I know one for sure. But I know less than 3 people on that whole deal. I have donated all of the red dirt that went into the improvements of Draper Road. I worked with Washington County at their request because I have red dirt on my property, and Ozark Electric made a mistake in their engineering, and I had to move a building 250 feet. That was, so I had to cut into the side of a mountain so I could maintain the distance. So I had access to the red dirt, and I donated it at no cost, used my own equipment to load it, and the county put it in their dump trucks, hauled it, and did it. I had one person say thank you, and that was Mr. Draper, who lives all the way at the end of Draper Road. I know I've said a lot. This has been very difficult for my family and myself. I just want you to know my commitment is greater now than it has ever been to continue my quest. And if I may address one comment again made by, and I don't know his name. Can I ask him his name?
Yeah, sure.
What's your name?
Me?
No, I know behind.
Matt Childs.
Matt Childs? Matt Childs said, it quoted me from NPR, I believe that's what he said, NPR, that if the dirt pit was going in next to me, I would initially say no. That's what I said. Nobody wants a dirt pit. Nobody wants a water purification plant. Nobody wants waste management. But we want to drink our tap water. We want to take out our trash. And we need red dirt to build schools, churches, and what have you. So I guess I'd just like to read this real quick. It says, I appreciate the court for hearing my appeal regarding the red dirt pit. I've submitted plans and received necessary permits. I went to Little Rock, met with the ADQ. They issued us a permit, which is a construction permit, which is part of the process that was added during the ADQ process. So that was an extra step we had to do. Usually on a large scale, you don't have to do it to circle the wagons back, but we do have our stormwater permit, and we are in compliance. I'm very aware of the opposition at the dirt pit, and I understand it. If I received the proposal, I would definitely have an issue with it, but I've already stated that. All of those things have to come from somewhere. Water treatment, land management, they got to be somewhere. They got to be somewhere. The difference in our pit and the other pits that Washington County is familiar with, there are just craters. Where basically, you go in and you have a 20-foot or 30-foot wall, and then you have to go through the reclamation process. I'm in the cattle business, so my reclamation is going on at the same time. Like right now, about a third of the first phase, we've already started reclamation, meaning dirt. We're getting ready to bring in our final topsoil, but we put topsoil down, and we're ahead of it. The only similar pit is Cousins, which does reclamation as they go. If you've ever seen it or look it on the website, it's beautiful. It's nice slopes, all grass. It's just very, very nice. And it'll look like a golf course, I mean, with nice rolling hills. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing this for the cattle business. And heritage means something very spiritually significant to me. And I have 11 grandchildren, 2 special needs, and it's for them, not me. You know, blessed is the man who provides for his children's children's children, and that's my goal. It's not just about money. To address the question about the road, the requirements, I believe, are the highway department would be, Charles would be more apt to this, but I believe it's 36 feet wide, and that will take out the blind curve that's farther toward Elkhorn, which is the path that we would take, not the other way. If you even look on the map, the majority of the opposition letters are from the other direction. It's not even zero impact. There's been red dirt pits there for, to my knowledge, over 17 years. So there's not going to be a lot of change. Those trucks have always been there. We're 3 miles from the city limits. I don't expect the city to, or Fayetteville, just to, they can only move right toward us. So things are going to change very rapidly if our economy stays as strong as it is, and I'm very grateful and blessed that I believe it will. Since I've been working my property for over 5 years, I put my blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of money in it. Originally, I was going to put cattle and build a home on it. After a lot of time and money, it didn't work out. I've ran into opposition the first week I owned the property. I started having issues, neighbors wanting to know what was going on, and I made a joke to a gentleman that came to the door who's walking around with one of the signs, and I told him I was going to build 300 rental cabins, and before you knew it, it was everywhere, and I was like, I was just kidding, you know. I had built a pad. The home is basically 14,000 feet. I'm actually building it on Robinson Road. You can look on Robinson Road and see it. It would have been an asset to any neighborhood, projects. Every piece of property I get involved with will double or triple within the first 36 months. So, because of improvements. And that's what I've done. And that's what I'm good at. I think I've said enough. I mean, I really do. I appreciate your time. I know you're in a difficult position, but I'm definitely not as bad as I'm being made out to be. I care about kids. I will do everything in my power to make it an asset to the county and to make it look nothing than better, just better. Not, I won't do anything worse.
Mr. Morris, don't leave. We want to go ahead and let the JPs ask a few questions. JP Hires and then JP Washington.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to know if the neighbor's easement road is passable yet?
I sent you pictures. I cut a temporary easement. I thought I mentioned that, but I cut a temporary easement along the south property wall. There's pictures in there. I just took them yesterday. So it goes all the way around the back of the property. There's some issues with myself and Mr. Madlock that we have to work through, but he can easily access his property, and I have no desire to block somebody from getting to their property. I just.
I have one more.
Okay,
Yeah, one more question, please. If you look at the map, so you've got about 200 acres out there. I'd like to know what the future development plans that you have for the rest of those 200 acres are.
Well, again, to reiterate, my plans are to eliminate the hills. That's where the red dirt pit came from. Not totally eliminate it. Instead of it being giant gullies and useless for cattle or anything else for that matter, is to make it more usable. So there'd be more rolling hills instead of these big gullies. That we've actually improved the water flow. We've improved the drainage. If you look at the long-term plan in all 4 phases, it'll be a very beautiful piece of property.
And so, just to reiterate, do you intend to dirt farm the whole 200 acres, or?
No,
That's what I want to know. Okay.
JP Washington.
And I apologize if you answered that, but I have a huge learning curve with some of these terms. So haul road and easement, like, I really don't know what all of that means. But I do know that I was at the property this morning.
Yeah.
And could you explain to me in more detail how the neighbor to the south accesses their property? Because I didn't see that this morning, so I don't know what I missed.
Okay. If you, I'm constructing a fence. I apologize, I've mangled. Can I bring it to you, or have somebody bring it to you? Dino? Here's a few of them. This is the. Where's your road? I can't see that.
That may work.
Yeah, right here. To the south, it's this way.
Understood. I didn't make this map, so.
Okay, see, it runs along that boundary.
Do I? Yeah, that's not gonna show it, where the temporary place where he can get it. Oh, keep going? Okay. Oh, here you go, right here.
No.
This is it?
No. That's the
Can they put it on?
1, 2.
This is the entrance. This is the oak gate that I originally had put up. It's right at the end of it. This is how I cut it before. Some of your pictures show that his original entrance is like this, going into his deal. So we've actually cut him a very level, flat. I mean, you could drive a Volkswagen through it. So
say it again when you go down on the microphone. Yeah. so everybody can hear it.
So basically, it's here, it comes down the long side of here and comes down. And
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
here. You just tell them, yeah.
Basically, if you're at the front of the project, I have a oak fence that we put up at the very south edge. It's open. It's 15 feet wide, which is pretty good. And we cut all new road. We even leveled it out and removed trees and everything. All the pictures in there of what looks like, what we're calling an easement, just looks like a country road. That's pictures of the temporary easement that we built in lieu of him having to try to get over the Hall Road. The Hall Road is what's been lifted 38 feet. I can't control that. But my intentions are to fill and bring that road to a 3-to-1 slope. So it'll be 3-to-1, kind of like so. You drive up from the gate, plateau on the Hall Road, and 3-to-1 back down to the old easements. And that's why I said what I've done for them is I've given them a totally accessible temporary drives. I mean, a dump trucks or whatever could go up and down that road. Wow.
So, let me see real quick.
Go ahead.
JP Pond and then JP Bowman.
Can you see, is it on here?
Yes.
So this is the existing road as of the right-of-way. This is.
That's the easement.
This is all our property is the easement. This is where he comes through the other property of the neighbors. I guess, I don't know what direction that is.
North.
North. So he comes down here. This is the old easement as before we started this project. So this is the easement that he drove on here, and then this is the waterway along the, would be my left, and I think would be your guys' right where my mouse is, of the protected waterway. When this project started, this was a cedar thicket. We'd take those cedar thickets out, and we had came just right through the side of the cedar thicket and conjoining to this road, this Hall Road here. That is our Hall Road. That's about 400 feet. Okay, that's our 10% slope. So down here at the bottom where we had to do the 30-foot fill where my mouse is, we're almost there with the 10%. Okay, but we have a little ways to go. And like I was saying, the temporary access has came through here. This is Greenbrier Road right here. This is the neighbor's property here. We have an easement right through here. It comes back down this fence. Comes down this fence, and it just kind of swirls back down into his easement down here. And that is, it's been dozed and is drivable. And then that's what they have agreed on. So that kind of makes a little bit more sense of where that temporary access is, right there.
What percent grade is a 3-to-1 slope?
On what slope?
33.3%.
It's a 33% grade? Yeah, okay.
So every 100 feet, you got to go down 10 feet. That's the slope.
10%.
Yeah.
1 foot, 10 feet out.
Every foot out, you go down 3 foot.
There's not, because of the environmental protection, there's not a room enough there to make that grade on that easement.
On the existing easement, we're gonna put it at 3-to-1. I mean, it'll be close on the gate side, but it should be no problem. It will take a lot of dirt because we have to build a road 38 feet in the air, and that's.
No, there's another question there. ADEQ really require that 10% grade, did they? Is that what you were saying?
No. No, when we were in Little Rock, that, no, they did not.
So
That's part of the
that's part of
state
the-
law that's quoted by Tyler McCartney, the Washington County Fire Marshal, and Nathan, the planning for Washington County.
So environmentally, you just did that 10% grade and all that to meet their standards. It didn't have anything to do with the environmental requirements of ADQ.
Oh, no. No, trust me. ADQ was, if you look at the plans, all the directions and the flows had to be calculated over and over and over and over again. They've actually been calculated for multiple 100-year storms in a very short period of time. Our whole process will slow down the water flow. So that's why the stormwater permit was a crucial point. Matter of fact, we should have all other permits within the next week, I would imagine, to have their blessing to actually start mining. But obviously, I'm not going to do that until Washington County does what they do, and obviously, I have to pursue every option I have. I'm not just going to stop.
I'm getting the feeling that there's been one unintended consequence here.
What's that?
Not on your part, but in order to meet county standards, you created the situation created a hardship for the neighbor to the south. I'm hoping that we keep that in. I hope we keep that in consideration. Not to put you on the spot here. I'm saying this myself. I'm trying to be the bad guy. Okay?
No, I understand, and I appreciate that.
You're being very subtle.
That's why I spent the money, took the time, took down the trees to give him a temporary easement that he could easily drive. It is far better than his existing deal. He has since sued me, so I am not at liberty to go in too deep with this.
I understand. I pray that we take this experience here and use it in the future. Try to. But anyhow, I appreciate your time.
Just know that I'll do everything I can to, which I have, give him a much better access to his property. But again, I guess people can like it or not like it. They have that right.
Thank you.
J.P. Bowman and then J.P. Jenkins.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Morris.
Yes, sir.
I understand you're in a farming operation. Will you tell us a little bit about what your other operation looks like?
It's close to 400 acres. If you go to Robinson Road, which is intersects 16, it's in between 16 and 412. It's roughly about 6 miles of current dirt road. The Illinois River runs through my property, but if you go to about the highest point and stop and look around, there's cedar fence everywhere, and just about everything you see we own on both sides of the Illinois River. We bought the property. Basically, it was neglected. We had to reconstruct the levee. That was built in 1934.
Mm-hmm. Could I interrupt, make a point here? I think we may be running out of time on your side of this question, so let me be more specific. How many head of cattle do you have?
I can give you an exact number.
Well, it doesn't have to be exact, ballpark.
598. How many?
598.
598.
Okay. And,
I didn't know.
So you're planning on having cattle on this property?
I will have cattle on this property by
October.
All right, now you're going to go ahead, and what percentage of the property you're talking about here will be impacted by the dirt pit? 20, well, less than 30 acres, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're dealing with, what, 220?
I believe it's 220, I'm not sure.
All right. So it's a small portion of the total land mass you bought?
Right.
Okay. And you bought that 4 years ago? Approximately?
5, yeah.
Okay. Now, I understand this land traded hands a couple times before you got hold of it, is that right?
Yeah, I purchased it from Larry Stevens, who did the Stevens dirt pit.
Okay.
But when I first bought it, I put 100 and, I don't want to misquote. How many we put out there? Dean?
127.
Right,
127.
You know,
my kid's smart and good looking too.
I saw some of the work you've done up there to try to reclaim and start making pasture out of some of the rest of it. Now you have another farm that you're taking topsoil off of?
Yes, it's on Viney Grove Road.
All right, and you're bringing that topsoil to this farm?
Yes, sir.
To top dress those hills?
That will actually start, I actually own that topsoil plant. I bought it a few years ago. It was Phelps. Phelps has been there for 20 years.
Okay.
So I bought it. I bought a screener from Boston Mountain.
Hey,
all right, and
some of those
so it's
details
being screened.
The main
so
thing is you're still continuing to bring topsoil onto the heritage farm to go ahead and improve that for cattle production.
Well, I had trucks come in to drop off dirt at the other end, and neighbors were pulling their cars in the middle of the street and blocking the dump trucks and taking pictures of every dump truck. So it was, I don't, you know.
Okay. Well, Mr. Morris, I guess, you know, I came out and looked at your operation, and I didn't anticipate what I found when I got there. And so I've done a lot of questions, and I appreciate the lady that shared your letter back there. In all the questions I've asked, I've learned that the neighborhood is not as cohesive as it appeared. I also found out that within the last 5 years, I think it's 3 years ago, that there was a petition passed around this neighborhood asking that road be widened.
That's correct.
J.P. Bowman, talk in the mic.
I'm sorry?
Talk in the mic.
I'm sorry. And that every neighbor on that route signed that proposal except one.
One, right.
Now, in this recent meeting, we had people say, we don't want it widened and we don't want it paved. I don't understand that. Now, I followed up with ADEQ. I talked to every department in Little Rock. I found nobody had anything negative whatsoever to say what you're doing out there.
I appreciate
I understand the impact of traffic. We look at Tyson's, we look at Walmart, we look at J.B. Hunt. Everybody's putting trucks on the road. And sometimes they're a pain, and we all understand that. But those are public roads. Are we going to limit access of businesses to county and state roads? I understand there's some risk involved. We all know there's risk involved.
Well, I can't even bring topsoil into my property without the harassment and delays. I mean,
okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that, but one other thing I want to tell you, I've been talking to Chief Gales about this whole thing about bus routes. He has been concerned about bus routes for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
He's currently in a very aggressive process to improve all of the bus route roads, and this is one of them. The state mandates a 50-foot right-of-way, but I've been told that neighbors out there by our road department are resisting widening that road to 50-foot frontage.
Oh, yes, the gentleman that you just spoke pulled a shotgun.
Well, I'm telling you,
yeah.
The state mandates a 50-foot right-of-way.
Mm-hmm.
And so us to go ahead and improve those roads and make it like it ought to be for bus traffic or for truck traffic, it's going to require taking some frontage off some of these places to get a full 50-foot of frontage out there.
Well, Draper and Greenboro Road, the people have to congregate there when they're dropping their kids off
because the school bus can't make it down Draper, which it's just a bad deal. But, and it's better than it was before I got there and gave them the dirt. But my point is that a lot of people have to sit there with their kids, regardless of weather or whatever. They're, the bus can't even get to their house, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I found that it was essentially 1/2 mile from your entrance to the paved road. And most of the houses sit back off the road. And I understand there's concern about traffic. But if you're going to agree to pave that, that's going to be a nice improvement. It'll probably be widened and the curve fixed up there in that process. Mr. Gales in the road department has been doing a fantastic job on some of these roads. And he's projecting a 20-mile paving project in Washington County for this next year. We've never done more than 5. He's also done a tremendous job of chip and seal. And so I'm hoping that we'll see a dramatic improvement out there in that neighborhood. And so,
can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
One of the neighbors said that there was an accident. Did you understand him to say daily?
Yes.
That's not true. If you look at the Washington County Sheriff's Department calls and things like that, you can document domestic issues as well as car wrecks. But I'm not saying there's not been car wrecks. I'm not saying that there hasn't been tragedies in people's lives. I lost a daughter myself, so I understand that. But it's not gloom and doom. It's not as bad as, I think the facts will speak for themselves on Washington County.
J.P. Jenkins. J.P. Jenkins.
I'm sorry, thank you.
J.P. Harbison.
Did I understand that there are some old dirt pits on this property or on adjoining property that's been used in the past?
I don't know of or own, but I know that I was told about this, but I don't know where they would be.
So you were told before you bought the property that there had been mining?
No, not on my property.
No mining on the property that you bought? Was there any mining on adjacent properties?
I would not know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
J.P. Bowman.
Judge, I think Nathan could probably answer that question for us about other pits.
Pardon me?
I think Nathan could probably answer that question about other pitch locations.
Okay. J.P. Lemming.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Morse, are we going to, if this all happens, have the road done and in place before you ever haul one load of gravel? Is the widening, in your mind or the county's mind, or we've got it, are we going to widen the road and everything's going to be complete before anything's hauled?
That's totally up to Washington County.
I thought you was paying for all that.
I am.
He's paying.
Well, actually.
He's paying, but the road will be built under our direction.
It has to meet county standards.
Okay, so the answer to you then, or ask the question to you, is this going to be done before you ever hauls one load out?
I
mean, because that's a very important question for everybody.
What about all the loads that have already been hauled?
Hold tight. J.P. Lemming.
I'm sorry?
J.P. Moore.
No, this is what I have to deal with every day.
We understand that. Just go ahead and answer the best you can.
Mr. Morris.
Just a second.
Talk this way to the board down here.
Mr. Lemon, if that's a requirement of Washington County, that's what I'll do. If you want the road paved, whenever Washington County does the road to their specs and the whole 9 yards.
Because that'll take care of a lot of the problems. The bus issue would be took care of. The dirt issue would be took care of. Every issue you'd had here would be took care of.
And I agree. I apologize. I got a little worked up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. My patience is
J.P. Yanez.
Sorry, city girl here, so trying to understand, I went out there to see the property. For a city girl standpoint, just bear with me. I saw a dirt pit operation and a haul road. So we're requesting a CUP for those two items. How can you explain to me that it's not a haul road and a dirt pit operation?
All right. Fair question. Not one load of red dirt has been sold off of that property. Not one. I would not and will never do it. I don't have to do it. There's no need, there's no reason possibly for me to risk even making half of this stuff seem real. The activity you see now is for that 10% grade, raising that road 38 feet at the bottom. Okay, it's well over 1,200, 1,300 loads from my own property to build this road at a 10% grade. And there's streets in Fayetteville that are 21%. So having my point is that 10% grade is what I was told I had to have, and that's exactly what they're going to get. But that's all. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Morris. Okay. At this point, we'll go ahead and thank you. We'll go ahead and now, Nathan, are you going to do the opposition?
They have a presentation.
Okay. Whoever's up next. I don't know.
Thank you, folks. In order to respect our time, they have an app for that. It's called a clock, so I'll...
State your name and make sure we...
My name is Marty Matlock. I've been a resident with my wife, Stephanie Foster, of Washington County for 18 and a half years. And we are the property owners to the south, and we appreciate the interest of our issues. But I would like to make it clear that really this is not about us. This is about our neighborhood, the 100-plus neighbors in our community. And I will, in order to brief you on our concerns, okay, there's that one, and I'll go ahead and open up the other. Thank you. I'm going to brief you on the concerns of, summarize the concerns of almost 100 of our neighbors that were submitted to the Washington County Planning Commission and that we've shared with you also in the previous comments. And I would like to say that this is a very emotional thing because for most of us, our land and our homes are the most valuable things we own. They're our legacy for our families if we have one. And so when they're threatened, people get emotional. That the personal attacks or comments that are made that are perceived as attacks on Mr. Morris are unfortunate and not desirable, and they're the product of emotions. And this is emotional for many people, but for you, this is not an emotional issue. This is an issue of the law. This is an issue of what your codes require for a conditional use permit. I'm an engineer. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak to you about that, but I'll talk to you about the specific issues. The Planning Board denied this conditional use permit for the reasons that you've already seen. We're here to ask that you respect their decision. We already know, based upon Nathan's comments and briefing, that our county is zoned for agricultural single-family residential use. That's the right we bought. Conditional use permits are special considerations. They're not a right of land ownership. And oftentimes people will use public goods amenities like water treatment, wastewater treatment, municipal landfills as arguments for industrial commercial activities. Those are public goods that the public benefits from. A commercial enterprise is a private activity that an individual commercial enterprise benefits from. When a commercial private enterprise benefits and the public pays, that's a form of exploitation. And we're opposed to that. Washington County law requires the 7 criteria that Nathan reviewed, And we're here to speak about the four so-called subjective criteria: compatibility, safety, use and enjoyment, property values, and impeding of normal development and growth in the future. We're going to be here for a long time together as neighbors. We need to learn to live together and work together to sort out these problems. And fortunately, we have a law in Washington County that frames our roles and rules and approach for how we live together and work together. And we're asking you to respect and enforce that. There are over 95 property owners within a half mile of this proposed dirt pit. We've heard how many opposed it. 115 people opposed this. We think we're the best judge of what's compatible for our land use because we have property there. We've invested there. Our neighbors live there. We'll also point out that the Washington County Protection of Agricultural Rural Areas Task Force goals specifically balance use of resources, smart growth, and environmental community preservation as the goals for our county. So it's not just those of us who don't want this in our backyards that consider this to be incompatible. This is incompatible with our county's vision of what our county should be. There's an old John Prine song about digging up paradise and hauling it away. Do we want to dig up Washington County and haul it away in the name of progress? Really, it's the name of a corporate enterprise, not an individual, a corporate enterprise making a profit, and the rest of us, those of who invested our land and our lives in trying to improve the county, making it better. The criteria of compatibility applies to the proposed conditional land use, not the post-recovery land use. And who doesn't like cattle grazing in a field? I mean, that's doesn't need a permit. We're perfectly supportive of those activities. What we're opposed to is the 10 to X number of years, at least 10 years of operation that will disturb and upset our lives and violate those four criteria, which must be met for a conditional use permit to be approved according to your own codes. The proposed open pit mine is incompatible with criteria number 4. It is not compatible with the way we live in Washington County. Now let's talk about safety. School bus, this is one of the school bus stops at the bottom of the hill. This is heading north on Greenboro Road from Elkhorn Springs Road, winding up a hill and out. The proposed truck traffic density is 75 hauls a day. That's 150 trips a day. Over a 10-hour day, that's on average a truck every 4 minutes, but they'll cluster up because that's the way traffic does. And so there'll be trucks moving in and out across this road, even if it's widened, even if the trees are removed to 50 feet, it's still a windy road. You can't straighten that. It's still going to have visibility concerns, and it's still going to have grade. It's still steep in some areas. So we have Farmington and Prairie Grove schools, bus stops, and we'll have a bus driver who will speak to this in a moment, so I don't want to dwell on that too much, just to say that as you move north, you can up this from that bus stop, you can see the lack of visibility now. J.P. Ecke, the bottom, see from your perspective, the bottom left picture of the bus going around the curve, it's going up towards the entrance gate. So that's going up the hill and around of the proposed quarry. Comfort, general welfare, we're concerned about dust, mud, noise, potential damage to water resources and waterways. And we have with us Dr. Van Berhana, who will talk to you about that in a moment, an expert, a local geologist who will talk to you about the potential potential damage to this system and its water. Dirt pits create dust. You can mitigate that a lot with good management practices, and the applicant proposes to do that, but it's still going to be dusty, and whichever way the wind blows, there goes the dust. And if you're downwind, you're going to get dust. And on those summer days when you're hauling that load, it doesn't stay wet long enough on the haul. I drove down Interstate 49 today behind dump trucks, and my wife and I bought a brand new car, and I'm dodging rocks behind those dump trucks today because I don't want to bing my brand-new car. Well, that's the nature. We've all had that experience. And yes, it is part of living in a robust area. We love our robust area. We're not opposed to development, but we don't think that everything should be everywhere, that we think there are places you should put these things to ensure that we don't do things that cause harm to others. Mud. These things are going to, when it's wet, when it's raining, they're going to drop mud off their activities. There's no way you can avoid it. We all know that. And that mud on that pavement, we know what that red clay feels like when it gets wet. We know what it does. It's slippery. It's dangerous. That's going to be on our public roads, and especially going to be on Greenboro Road. Now, I'm not making proclamations. I'm suggesting this is a risk that we have to take into account. Noise is a big concern. We provided citations to you in our packets, so you have the scientific background, but typical ambient noise for rural communities is about 30 decibels. Berms at the hillside dirt pit will mitigate the noise of the inbound and outgoing trucks at the gate. But from the activities, we know how sound travels in these hills and hollers. I can hear on my hillside, we could hear children laughing from miles away. Playing in their yards. The sound travels, and that's, again, part of the characteristic of that. Residents a quarter mile from this pit will perceive the noise from this dirt pit operation as 8 times the background noise. Because every 10 decibel increase in sound we hear, every 10 decibel increase, step up, we perceive as doubling noise. Estimated cumulative noise from a single dump truck plus a single bulldozer plus a single front end loader at 300 feet, 73 decibels, more than twice the background noise. And there'll be a lot more than that operating at the site all the time. So we estimate over 80 decibels probably from the operation, which is 5 doublings of the noise of background noise. And then there's the necessary and valued backup signals that all of our equipment, I have a backhoe, and when I'm backing up on my backhoe, I have to wear ear protection in my cab because it's deafening. It's 1,000 hertz and it's 100 decibels, and it's binging every time I'm in reverse, and I'm in reverse when I'm working half the time. And that means we're going to hear that backup signal constantly, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. So noise is another incompatibility concern we have. The water issues, I'll let Dr. Brahana speak to these in more details, but we know the value of water in Northwest Arkansas. If it weren't for Beaver Lake, we would have no communities here of the size we have. Our well waters in our rural areas are critical values. Our cities are named after the wonderful springs that emerge from the Boone Aquifer and similar formations. You take off the topsoil, there's not much to protect them as that water infiltrates, and Dr. Brahana will talk about that. And then my area, I'm a hydrologist, the runoff is a major concern. The Illinois River, we've invested in the last 9 years $21 million in taxpayer dollars in this reach of the Illinois River to try to mitigate sediment and nutrients from that river. And we're proposing to put a red earth pit 1,000 feet away. That doesn't make much sense to me, because even with good management practices, we had, how many 500-year events have we had in the last 15 years in Northwest Arkansas? We've lost citizens' lives to those flood events. We've had 3 in the last 7 years. And the stormwater detention systems are not required they can't contain that. It's too much water. And that will carry sediment to the Illinois River. Use and enjoyment. I hope you can see the pictures. These are the use and enjoyment activities of my family on my farm. At least they were. 4th of July celebrations, pond with our neighbors and kids swimming, exploring the creeks, our blackberry orchard, blackberries, not blueberries, blackberries, the John Clark's hybrid blackberries, thornless, from the University of Arkansas horticulture farm at Clarksville. The commercial, we actually got our teenagers to work. You can see them there. It's a photo record of their efforts. So that's why we did this, so we can teach them how to work, because it's hard to teach them to work in town. Construction and truck traffic. The neighbors in Draper and Greenboro Road have already talked to you very eloquently and passionately about their concerns about their current and feared future impacts from those. Well, let's talk about my wife's and my personal experience. And again, this is about a company, a corporation, a corporate behavior, not an individual. Individuals are wonderful people. Corporations are not individuals. Corporations do what they're legally allowed to do, and sometimes what they're not legally allowed to do. This was 2 weeks ago, the access road to my land. You can see my F-150 down at the gate that Nathan showed you with the red post, and you can see my wife taking that last step up. We can't get over it, and you can see then I'm looking to the north, and then looking to the south where my access road is, you can see the debris. Now, I appreciate, first I heard of it, an offer of an alternative access. It'd be nice to have that conversation. I've never had that conversation about this particular issue with Mr. Morse today, or with the company today. We had proposed this back in September because we made it clear that we own this access. We paid for it. It's deeded to us as part of our land. We don't have access to it now. We can't use our land now. Now, it's generous for someone to offer to substitute something they've taken from me, but that hasn't, I have no interest in borrowing that to replace that which I own, that which I paid for, that which is my property right. And as Mr. Morse has indicated, his company has forced me into a situation where I have to litigate in order to get back that which was taken from me, and that's ongoing. Property values, we have another expert who will talk to you just briefly about property values in a moment. But Eric Seck et al. Determined in 2006 that the relationship between property values and dirt pits, quarries, it's not rocket science. The closer you are, the lower your property values are. No one wants to live next to it for all the reasons you know. The relationship, according to them, is if you're within half a mile, you're going to lose 20% of your value. Now, Mr. Morse talked about his increased property value, and that's wonderful. He hasn't started a dirt pit yet. He doesn't have it permitted yet. He's perhaps started activities, but there's no permit for it yet. So yes, it's a great property value, but according to the scientific literature, according to what we know from our own experience, if you approve this conditional use permit, our property values will escalate down. I'm looking at a 30% loss of property value the day that happens. 30%. We are not anti-growth. We are pro-growth, according to the rules and regulations of Washington County that we support. We love our new neighbors. We celebrate our new neighbors who are building new residences according to the rules and regulations that we all agreed to live by. And we are embracing them. We think that this particular proposed conditional use will undermine, if not derail, all of those activities. It will make dirt pits the common use in Washington County, because then we won't be able to say that this is incompatible. How can you say it's incompatible when it's there? The next dirt pit or the next expansion of this dirt pit will be compatible by obvious extension, and we're concerned about that. This is a foot in the door problem. Once you open the door for this dirt pit, what's to stop the next one, the next one, the next one? There's dirt out there. It's just farther out, which means it costs more money. We want to protect our property rights, as all of us should. We see this as incompatible, unsafe. It will damage our property values. It will damage rural development as we envision it in Washington County. When the government prefers the actions of a corporation that benefits the owners of the corporation over the citizens it represents, that's oppressive socialism. It is exploitation. It's not who we are, and we're opposed to that. Now I'd like to introduce a couple of our speakers. We have Melissa Miller, who's a Farmington bus driver, Melissa Lee, who's a local real estate broker, and then finally Van Brahana, who's an adjunct professor in geology and a former retired USGS geologist. In full disclosure, Van and I worked very closely together at University of Arkansas for many years before he retired.
Hello, I'm Melissa Miller, and I'm a bus driver and a teacher for Farmington Schools. I drive bus 4, which was the bus that you saw in the photographs. My main concern is when I turn onto Greenboro Road, I come off of Elkhorn Springs, turn to the left onto Greenboro. The road is narrow. The road has a lot of blind corners. My first stop, you saw in a picture earlier, it had the line of mailboxes over to the right. Every single kid that gets off of my bus has to cross over in front of me over to the left. The way that my route is designed, I can't change that up any so that those kids are not crossing the road. That very first stop, there are 4 young ladies that get off the bus there, ranging from very, very young. I've got one that'll be a kindergartner next year that will be added to that group. The oldest is only a 9th grader. And like I said, they cross in front of me all the time. There's a blind corner right in front of me right there. If anyone happens to come around that road very quickly, it's a major accident waiting to happen. You could probably see from the pictures too, when I stop the bus, I do typically move that bus over more towards the middle of the road. It gives those girls a little bit more protection crossing over. But my big concern is, I just know from driving a bus, stopping a bus on a dime with the weight that we have on the bus, it's not going to happen right away. Stopping a dump truck on a dime is also not going to happen. Once again, you're looking at 2 large vehicles. Right now, if I meet a dump truck on that road, there's not room. There are some pull-offs along the way, but not right where the stops are. You know, so that's a concern. My next stop on the road, and I can give you all the stops. There are 5 stops on that road. My next stop is right before you get to the dirt pit. I have 3 children that get off the bus there, including a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. And kids will be kids. They don't always cross right over like they're supposed to. The kindergartner in particular, there are many times that I have to motion her to move on across the road because she'll stop in the middle if she sees something. She'll stop and pick up a rock. I mean, that's just the nature of a 5-year-old. You know, it is what it is. I have small grandchildren that do the very same thing. You know, and we try to instruct them and we try to make sure that they do everything that's as safe as possible. But once again, that stop is just right before you get to the dirt pit, to the first entrance. The very next stop is just barely past the dirt pit. I have a young lady that gets off there that's hearing impaired. She wears hearing aids. And she has to be really close to you to understand what you're saying. That concerns me because she may not hear what's happening and what's going on. The week of February 20th, as I'm bringing the bus through, one of our mechanics happened to be riding my bus that day because he does sub-driving in the afternoons if he needs to cover for one of our buses. So he rides all of our buses to learn all of our stops. That particular afternoon, we had to stop and wait because there were trucks parked on both sides of the road, and there was a dirt mover. I don't know if it was a bulldozer or what. I don't remember that exactly. But the road was impassable for the bus, and we had to wait until both pickups were moved and the bulldozer was moved. You know, and that can be an issue because, you know, parents expect their kids home at a certain time. They start calling the bus shop when their children don't arrive home at the expected time. Just past that, I have another stop where I have a child that has some disabilities. He's autistic. That's another concern because, like I said, they also cross over. There's, I think, a 3rd grader at that house, and then they will have another small child that will be riding the bus in the near future. Right now, that child's only a year old, but, you know, it is what it is. And then my last stop is at the Y at Draper Road. I have one young lady that walks down Draper Road. I have another family that the bus stop is in an extremely dangerous area moving on towards Savoy Road, right on that hill. And so the family worked out a condition with the school district to where they actually meet me at the Y, and that particular father parks in the Y to drop his child off and to pick up the children in the afternoon, mainly because their road, it's way too dangerous for me to stop. Posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour. My concern is when the road gets paved, vehicles don't drive slower, they drive faster. We see that all the time. Will those children be protected? I don't know. The curves on that road and the grade on that road, as it is right now, I don't know how you could get all of the curves straightened out enough that those kids are not going to be in major danger if a dump truck is meeting me on that road. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Lee. I am a licensed realtor, executive broker, and licensed attorney here in Arkansas. I own Northwest Arkansas Real Estate Solutions, and I hang my real estate license with Keller Williams Market Pro Realty. My business sold a little less than $12 million in volume last year, with about 25% of that being in commercial and land. So I do sell quite a bit of property here in Benton and Washington County primarily, and I want to address specifically your CUP 6 regarding the property value situation. I firmly believe that a development like this, a high-impact development, will negatively impact the vast majority of the property values in and around it. I have never had any client who wants to live next to something like this. Never. I also represent cattlemen and cattlewomen who are looking for property for their cattle. And spending this much money to develop this property for a cattle operation does not pass the smell test for me personally. It's not a common sense objective to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to create pasture out of wooded property. I'd also like to specifically address the CBRE appraisal that was mentioned earlier today. The first appraisal, as stated, I have not seen it, was done in January of 2014, and that appraisal was $530,000 based upon my notes. And if he owns about 200 acres, that's $2,650 an acre, which is, reasonable for wooded property. If that same property, as they stated, appraised in January of 2019 at $1.158 million, that's $5,790 an acre. So, that's a reasonable increase for 5 years worth of appreciation and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of development. As Mr. Morris has already stated, what he does best is he doubles and triples the value of his properties because of improvements. So he has seriously improved this property. So his property values have improved, and they have improved to the detriment of those property owners around him. And I really, like I said, I can certainly understand how his property values improved, but his neighbor's property values did not improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Change the slide.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Say it again.
I'm just changing the slides for Dr. Brahana. Sure. Make sure you introduce yourself.
Sure.
Good
Judge, Justices, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Van Brahana. I'm a retired professor of geosciences at the university. I'm also a retired U.S. Geological Survey hydrologist, and I've lived in Washington County for 29 years. I would like to speak very briefly focused on water supplies. This particular area, and as we can see in the slide itself, is composed, the red dirt's composed of chert, flint, the material that the Native Americans used for projectile points, tools, and so forth. And between those, there is a lot of limestone. And the limestone is what I have the problem with because it develops, it is very reactive to water. It dissolves in water. It forms caves or mini caves. If you look at a small size feature that is present there, they may be no bigger than the diameter of a hose, but it can transport huge amounts of water very rapidly. With that rapid flow, it has tremendous energy, and it can pick up sediment, other material that can be transported down to the Illinois River. And as you're well aware, the Illinois River is, it has been the object of legal battles between Oklahoma and Arkansas for many years. There has been a tremendous input of money, $21 million thus far, to improve the quality of this. But those are concerns that I have, that the velocities of those waters through those areas, and it's called karst, and just below this red dirt is a very pure limestone. And that limestone itself, if I owned property, I would consider that may be better still than red dirt to mine, but if that is the case, it would require blasting. It would require a lot of attention. So that has not been proposed. That is not part of the deal, but it's a potential option that may happen further down the road. This is what the limestone looks like. It's Swiss cheese. It is very it is very open. And with that approach, it can allow potential contamination. Most of the human activity on the land surface generates potential contaminants which can get in. They move underground. They can't be seen. The actual surface water measurements and evaluation of these features are, we can look at the surface, but there is a lot of material. The hydrologic cycle is moving this water underground. There are a huge number of springs in this area. They're flowing at very large volumes. There are faults and fractures in this area, and they are very well developed. I've had a bunch of students conduct research, and we've conducted research at the Savoy Experimental Watershed. Okay. A valuable piece of information.
Thank you, Dr. Brahana. Stay there because the JPs may have some questions for you, or is it Mr. Madlock who wants to come back?
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Am I, okay. The one thing.
The 30 minutes is passed, but again, we want to go ahead and allow for questions.
I appreciate that. Let me show you.
Point of order.
JP Jenkins.
I'd like to ask to suspend the rules to give more time for public comment.
It will be.
No, we've got a motion on the floor to suspend the rules.
Okay. There's a second by JP Madison to suspend the rules and allow for more commentary. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, Dr. Brahana.
Thank you very much, Judge. I'm going to trace, and I think all of you justices have a document at the very end of Dr. Matlock's handout. There is, on the very last page, a map of the surface geology of this area. The formation at land surface is the Boone Formation. It shows up as light gray on this particular diagram in the figure. The Illinois River is the series of blue dots, and it has been highlighted. And you can see it's very close to the red dot, which shows the actual occurrence of where the red dirt mine will be. But the point I want to make with this is that the Boone Formation, with its presence over all of northwest Arkansas, is not constrained to be limited to this location. It can be moved to essentially any place, and it doesn't have to be Washington County. It may be Benton County. There may be some areas where people want the work. It may be a delighted opportunity for other locations that are present. As I'm not a realtor, I am not a legal expert, but I do want to show that those particular features, and especially the water concerns that we have, are particularly important. So with that, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Brahana. Any of the questions for Dr. Brahana? All right, Mr. Matlock.
Thank you, Vic.
Okay, thank you.
JP's, any questions for Mr. Matlock? All right. Thank you, Mr. Matlock.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening. I'm Mary Beth Lyon.
The time is, are we going to suspend again?
I'm sorry, I thought it was, that the time was extended.
It was.
Extended for that gentleman.
For Dr. Brahana. If you guys,
Oh,
pleasure.
okay.
I move that we allow this lady to continue speaking.
All right, we got is that a motion to suspend the rules? Second by J.P. Jenkins, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Okay. Thank you, and
right.
I appreciate all of your very hard work. In order for a conditional use...
Give me your name again.
Mary Beth Lyons.
Lyons, okay.
And I live on Draper Road and have lived there for 35 years. In order for you to approve a conditional use permit, I think you all must be assured that the conditions of that permit will be adhered to, and that future permits and state and county laws and policies will be adhered to. And the residents of the Highland Community Neighborhood Association are really concerned that this corporation has not demonstrated a respect for the county policies and state laws, or, as you've heard, property boundaries. I'd like to point you to take a look at the timeline because you've heard that the corporation believes they were compliant, but the timeline for ADEQ Do I hit this to move forward? In early fall, the applicant did not have a permit for the site. October and November, all of our neighbors observed the Hall Road construction. Aerial photos show that construction is taking place. That ongoing construction impacted many of us very close to the site with dust over the holidays, with dust, road, in fact, even smoke and dust. And the corporation sent me in a letter that they were burning and that the dust would go away once they got the permit and started mining. November 21st, there was the ADEQ inspection. And you can see, and you have seen, the photos of the haul roads and the pit area at the time of that inspection. They contacted the LLC and did not get replies to adhere to the regulations, and therefore they contacted him and asked for that important meeting immediately in December. This is what we have seen from the ADEQ correspondence. So the full inspection report that ADEQ sent to them required that they implement best practices. In January, ADEQ did receive the application for the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. As you can see, there is a lot of work and major construction going on, as this aerial photo shows you. On February 11th, they did indeed issue the stormwater construction permit, but it is only for the road itself. It is not for the large-scale destruction of this property. I ask you to really consider whether this is compliance and whether the corporation is in fact meeting the goodwill that the neighbors are so very concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lyons. Is that everyone, Mr. Matlock?
They have to suspend the rules.
I'd like to say something about the situation on River Road, and I don't believe it's been addressed properly.
And have to suspend the rules.
I'd like to suspend the rules to let this woman have a chance to speak.
J.P. Jenkins, and second by J.P. Pine. State your name.
My name is
All
Dana.
in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Go ahead, Ms. Patty.
Judith Yanez. My name is Dana Taylor.
They're doing a roll call to see if we can go ahead.
Sorry.
But
Patrick Deacons. No. Lisa Ecke. No. Sam Duncan.
No.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
No.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. 9 to 5, yes.
no,
Oh,
9 to 5.
You got to have 10 to suspend the rules,
You
okay.
have to have 10, motion failed.
Oh, you had to have 10. Okay, so that's the end of the time. Mr. Matlock, come forward. Thank you, Ms. Lyons. JP's questions. Any questions for Mr. Matlock? JP Johnson.
Mr. Matlock, is it your property that does not have access, that there is no access to?
My deeded access is, yes, sir. My deeded access is yes, that is my property. That is my deeded access that has been obstructed.
And the county's requirement for the grade of the road is essentially what cut it off. Is that correct?
I suppose. All I know is I have a mountain to climb, and I can't even climb it on foot anymore. That's what I know.
And that mountain was the requirement of Washington County. That's what I've been here tonight. Because of the
Your
grade.
microphone, sir.
I can't talk and hear at the same time, I'm sorry. My understanding is the county's requirement for the grade of the Hall Road is what cut off access of your easement. Is that correct?
I can't speak to what the county's requirements or or my neighbor's actions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'd like to make a motion that we uphold the decision of the planning board, but I'll defer to J.P. Duncan.
Second. Mr. Matlock,
I'll
thank you
second
very
that.
much. So there's a motion to,
I was going to defer to J.P. Duncan if he wanted to make the motion, and I'll second it.
Sure. I move that we uphold the decision that was made to deny the conditional use permit.
okay, so we have a motion to deny the conditional use permit for the Heritage Farm, a second by J.P. Madison. Any discussion?
There's no discussion. It's
on first read, okay. It's on the first read.
It's got to be read first, hold on.
Read about the title only?
Sorry, I got to get to it.
You're not going to hear any of the discussion you're in favor of,
Sir.
Well, one moment.
It's an ordinance denying a conditional use permit denied by the Planning and Zoning Board.
All right, the discussion won't happen until we get to the third read. So unless you guys suspend to go to the second and the third, that's when the conversations and public comments will happen. But at this one, it's only on the first read,
I move that we suspend the rules and move it to second reading.
right?
Second.
There's been a motion to move to suspend the rules, go to the second read. It's been properly seconded by J.P. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
All right. Ms. Patty, roll.
Judith Yanez.
Question, are we going on to second reading? Is that what we're voting
That's
for?
right.
Your motion, yeah, you're voting on the motion to
Suspend
suspend
the
the rules
rules.
to move it to a second reading.
Right.
Yes.
Patrick Deacons.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
No.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
No.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
No.
Motion fails.
So it was 9, and we need 10. Okay, so second reading will happen in April. All right? J.P. Bowman, hit your mic.
You know, I'd like to speak to everybody in this room. I think it's very obvious.
J.P. Bowman,
Point of order.
is it relative to the next item on the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's not the next
Okay,
item.
item 12 is J.P. Harbison. Hit your mic.
Sure, you want to read the title of the ordinance, please?
Give me 1 second, let the audience move.
Careful. God bless you.
The planning board united under what?
Well,
All of them? Planning, what was the vote on the planning board? I thought they had approved it.
No, it failed because one, well, there's a lot of things. One, they didn't have but about 5 people there, which is a quorum. And then they had one abstention.
What's your ordinance about, dear?
I think they need a vote
Oh,
on
it's,
something.
They didn't
it's
get
the,
it's required votes because they were
White
they
River
lacked some people, and then
Landing
one member abstained
deal that
because he
came
had
back.
Just wait a minute.
We've appealed it
financial
twice,
There
and
was no
I'm
way
going
to
to make
go
a...
on White River.
Yeah,
They
Landing,
need to go back.
it's
for it.
the,
People there voted
well, it's
for it,
called
but it
White
wasn't-
River Landing,
Can I
but
make a
it's
motion for this to go back to the
wedding
planning board
venue.
when they're in full membership?
Hey.
Ordinance is to go
I mean,
ahead
you
and let
could,
the
but
guy.
that would be
Yes, it is, yeah.
The smiley, he's not smiling,
Yes,
huh?
that's
She's not
well,
smiling.
point
Since it's already
one.
passed.
Yeah,
We won't vote yes.
Because
we
there
want to
were-
get
there
it,
were-
I mean,
Oh, thank you.
we don't want it appeal and
Would that be legal?
spend more
Yeah, but-
county money for nothing.
Can't just,
we don't
they voted
I
the
mean,
proceeding
that's-
board, so you
well,
send, so yes, you could send it back in the court to start over, I mean, I
Because
guess.
there were,
Save it.
there's 7 of them, correct?
Save
Or
it.
9?
Oh, you are? Yeah.
Just for 7, you have to have.
We'll do it. Do it then. Do it.
Oh, the appeal, it's spend those 30 grand.
I don't think so.
You're just a tobacco.
You better be careful, you'll be...
J.P. Harbison,
12.1. Everybody knows what 12.1 is.
Quorum Court is
We
back in
need a-
session. J.P. Harbison,
Ratification of the White River Landing. Read the title, please, Mr. Lester.
It's an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board, and this is for the White River Landing.
All right, it's gone to court and we've lost twice, and I'm going to make a motion that we pass 12.1.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve or ratify ordinance, the CUP is seconded by J.P. Deacons.
It would need to be suspended and moved on to a second reading.
Otherwise, we'll go to next month.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules. Turn on your mic. Read it on second reading.
It's a,
All right, thank you. I make a motion we suspend the rules and read it on our second reading.
there's been a motion to suspend the rule, move to second, seconded by J.P. Pond. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
And now I make a motion that we suspend the rules and read it on third reading.
Let them read the second, the title by title only, then you can go and make the
Title
motion.
only.
Second reading for an ordinance ratifying a
we did
conditional
move
use
it.
permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for the White River
Sorry.
Landing.
All right, now, on the third, I make a motion that we suspend the rules and read it on the third reading.
There's a motion to suspend the rule, move to third reading.
Second.
Second by J.P. Pond. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right.
All right,
read by-
I make a motion that we pass. Oh,
Slow down, slow down.
So third reading for an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for the White River Landing.
all right, I make a motion that we pass 12.1.
Second.
There's a motion to pass the CUP 12.1, ratifying the conditional use permit for the chapel, and second by J.P. Pond. Any discussion? J.P. Hyde.
For those of us, thank you. For those of us that are new here, could you give us a rundown of what this is? I read it
Sure.
in the, I read it in the agenda. I read the accompanying documents, and I had a hard time wrapping my brain around it. So.
Okay.
Okay, on Schaefer Road, we had some people that applied for CUP to put in a wedding venue and an event center. The property set on, the building set on property lines, and all the neighbors except one were against the project. And so we denied the CUP. It went to the circuit court. The circuit court overruled our denial. It went to the appeals court. The appeals court overruled our denial. So I don't want to waste any more county money in appealing it again. I think it's, you know, so that's why, all right.
Okay.
I'm making a motion
Any other
to do
discussion,
this.
J.P. Deacons?
Mr. Lester, do you have an estimate on what we've spent on this up to this point? I think that might be an important item here for us all to think about.
I don't know the exact figure. It's somewhere between 25 and 30,000.
And those were on the appeals.
Just on the appeal.
J.P. Lemmings and then
Well,
J.P. Pond.
okay.
Oh, I thought you put your hand.
I
J.P.
don't.
Pond?
About bought a calf.
Well, I bought a calf, okay. No,
I had a comment.
Go ahead, J.P.
but
Pond.
that was just on the last appeal. What did we spend on the first one to the
That'll
circuit
come here.
court?
I don't know, because that was me and time, so I didn't keep up with it since I'm a full-time
okay.
county employee.
So, I'm wanting you to agree or disagree. Basically, what's happened here is we've had two court judges tell us we need to let these people have their property and put in their wedding venue if they so please. Is that not correct?
Not legally. So what happened is the first court, it was appealed, and the judge made a ruling that the quorum court's decision was arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable, and granted a summary judgment. We appealed that and appealed the fact that the summary judgment was granted based on a couple of affidavits that were provided from former planning staff by the appellant. And so the Court of Appeals upheld the summary judgment ruling. Our argument was, under the rule of law, you have to consider everything that's been submitted, and everything that was submitted included a transcript from the court of the hearing. But the court found that wasn't sufficient evidence to overcome the summary judgment motion. And so what we're left with now is the only option would be to ask the Arkansas Supreme Court for a review or ask the Court of Appeals for a rehearing, both of which are highly, highly unusual and unlikely, and the chances of those are very slim. They don't do that a lot. And so, and expensive. And so that's kind of where we are is the first court made a ruling, and then the Court of Appeals has upheld their ruling, and it has been remanded or sent back to you to ratify.
And that was, and again, JP Hires, you asked the question, the planning team had approved and the planning board had approved, but then the action of the court sent it to, said, let's send it on. So did that give you the, okay, all right. JP Aki?
Just one more question. Judge, if you would permit me to ask Mr. Lester, did not the Association of Counties Attorney Jason Owens advise us not to pursue the appeal because it was highly unlikely that we would lose the appeal?
I believe it was Mark Whitmore.
Mark Whitmore.
But yes.
And we lost.
Any other?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion, public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
All right, that ordinance passed, White River Landing, the CUP has been approved and ratified. Item 13.
Wheels. Thank you.
Item 13, JP Pond.
Yes, Mr. Lester, could you read the title of item 13?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm getting there.
There you go.
I'll repeat, I didn't have a microphone on. I asked Mr. Lester to read the title of item 13.1.
This is an ordinance changing the title of GIS coordinator in the county assessor budget to business relations specialist for the county assessor budget for 2019.
This is simply a title change. We're very likely to see a lot of these through the year. Some of them might not be a title change only. But what's happening, our county's growing, our employees are continually training and cross-training and moving into positions as they're needed. There's, you're going to see us moving into a much more highly technical operation countywide. And so it's just, this is just not going to be an unusual thing. I move to pass.
Second.
There's been a motion by JP Pond, a second by JP Lemming. It's on, any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins. Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
All right. The ordinance changing the title from the coordinator in the assessor's office has been approved. Item 14, JP Harbison. Microphone.
Yes.
Please read the title for 14.
It's an ordinance creating the position of desktop support technician in the information technology budget for 2019.
Move that we pass 14.1.
There's a motion by JP Harbison, second by JP Hires. The ordinance creating the position of desktop IT. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
And Harvey Bowman.
And that ordinance passes. Item 15, J.P. Harbison.
All right, Mr. Lester, will you please read the title for ordinance 15.1?
An ordinance changing the title of 2 full-time positions in the Circuit Court 3 budget for 2019 and appropriating the amount of $1,595 from unappropriated reserves to the Circuit Court 3 budget for 2019.
Right, this was a full-time position out of 2 part-time positions, and it also requires $1,595 out of unappropriated reserves. I just want to point out that this is not in the budget. It's coming out of reserves, and I think we need to be very careful about doing this, but I'm going to make the motion to pass 15.1.
There's a motion to pass item 15.1 regarding the Circuit Judge, number Court 3, seconded by J.P. Ecke. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Okay, and that item 15.1 passes. Item 16, J.P. Harbison.
Mr. Lester, will you please read 16.1?
It's an ordinance reducing the amount of $824,503 from line items in various county budgets and restoring those funds to unappropriated reserves and appropriating the total amount of $1,361,487 from unappropriated reserves to various budget line items for 2018.
Remember that this is cleaning up the budget from last year, so I make a recommendation that we pass this.
So we got a motion for item 16.1, doing the reconciliation of last year's budget, and the second by J.P. Bowman. Any discussions?
Can I make a motion to amend the ordinance?
Got a motion to amend?
You know, there was a lot of discussion about this in our budget and finance meeting, and I know there's concerns over our overspending in these line items, but after learning more about it and understanding the accounting, I think it's important that we go ahead and move the buildings and grounds amount that was isolated from this back up into this original ordinance and the amounts, just from an audit standpoint. I mean, the money was spent. This is, I understand, a house cleaning item now, so my amendment would amend the amount in the title of 1.361487 to restore it to the original amount that was in the committee meeting of $1,403,181. And then also that same amount needs to be amended in Article 2. The line item on the 1,000 line item of $880,692 needs to be amended to $922,386. And then finally, the total appropriations total at the bottom there needs to be also amended from $1,361,487 back to $1,403,181.
I'm going to second.
That motion.
Okay. The J.P. Lemon, you got to say exactly what he just said. No. All right, so.
Okay. He basically putting it back.
I know what he did. I can do it.
You can do that. All right, so we have an amendment by J.P. Deakins, a second by J.P. Lemming. Any other discussion? Go ahead, take the J.P. Harbison.
I think this needs to be done this way, and which would eliminate then 17.1, even though I originally support, and I still support using some of that money for justice issues. But I don't think we can appropriate money after the end of the year and go back and change something. So I think we have to live with what we've done. So
Okay.
I support this. Thank you.
All right, so we got a motion, amended motion, a second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, so we have the amended motion on the floor. It's done. J.P. Bowman?
Could we have our CPA, Sam,
Shannon?
our comptroller, come and talk to us about this and his perspective on it?
Yeah, he did that finance budget.
Okay, all right.
All right, so we're...
I guess I'd like our comptroller to tell me whether we should do it like Patrick Deacon has recommended or like Ann's proposed to begin with.
Shannon, did you guys already visit?
I'm sorry, Shannon. Yep.
Turn the mic on. Oh, push the button.
There you
go. The way Patrick said is fine with me. That's the way it was originally proposed, and it accomplishes the same thing as the other anyway. So that would clean everything up, and we'd be done with it.
Thank you.
J.P. Bowman, Pine. I'm looking at him too, J.P. Pine.
Call me Harvey. Okay. I appreciate that you're going back and doing this, and the thing is, and some people don't like that word clean up, but it's definitely what this is. It is clean up.
Reconcile.
Should have already been passed back when it was first proposed. We're messing around here with what the auditors could do to us. If we don't get this cleaned up, we might lose hundreds of thousands of dollars of grants without doing this the way we're supposed to. I'm bothered by the idea of playing politics with some of this stuff. It's something to be taken very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Pine. Are you going to withdraw your motion, J.P. Harbison?
No. She'll need to withdraw her motion. The second one will need to be withdrawn, and then it'll need to be a motion to pass as amended.
Right. We need to withdraw the original motion and support the amended version of the cleanup. Thank you.
So you withdrawing
I'm withdrawing that motion.
And your second?
And we'll go.
Who did the second? Bowman. Okay. All right. And so now make the motion for your amended.
All right. So I'll make a motion for the amended, which is actually the original
16.1.
ordinance presented by our controller.
You have it written. Do you want to read that?
Thank you.
All right. I will have him read that. We have a motion to accept the amended motion, a second by J.P. Deacons.
And and since I removed that other, and whoever seconded that, then that's it.
That's correct. We'll read it.
We have an ordinance reducing the amount of $824,503 from line items in various county budgets and restoring those funds to unappropriated reserves, and appropriating the total amount of $403,181 from unappropriated reserves to various budget line items for 2018.
Okay. Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez. Yes. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Yes. Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
All right, so item 16.1 passes. And now 17.1, J.P. Harbison. We're going to go ahead and...
We need to suspend the rules and remove that.
Microphone. Microphone.
Go suspend the rules and,
We need to suspend the rules and remove that from the agenda.
Second.
motion to suspend the rules, take item 17 off the agenda, seconded by J.P. Pond. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, item 17 is off. Item 18, J.P. Harbison.
I make a motion that we pass 18.1.
Second.
It's a carryover.
Got a motion by J.P. Harbison, a second by J.P. Pond. Counselor, will you read the 18.1?
Okay, he needs to read it.
An ordinance adjusting carryover revenues in various funds for 2019.
I make a motion to pass 18.1.
Second.
Yes. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments? All right, Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez. Patrick Diggins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman.
Okay, that one passes. Item 19, J.P. Bowman.
Mr. Lester, would you read that, please, sir?
This is an emergency ordinance amending ordinance 2019-4 to allow ordinances ratifying a conditional use permit to be referred directly to the quorum court.
Thank you, sir. This is all about the fact that we're seeing these CUPs come, and if they get submitted to the quorum court, it goes to the County Services Committee, and it has to go through that process, then we go to quorum court and all these hearings and so forth. This is a matter of eliminating one step from that process, because we know how many times we've already heard this thing about the dirt pit and these other things as well. So this is a shortcut to minimize the time of the people, the applicants, and those opposing, as well as our time. So I hope you'll support me on this. Thank you.
So it's emergency ordinance, what is that, motion?
Yes, that's a
Okay,
motion.
got a motion?
Second.
And a second by J.P. Hires. Any discussion? Any discussion, any public comments? Public comments? All right, Ms. Patty.
Judith Yanez. Patrick Diggins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Chandra Washington. Suki Hires. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman.
All right, then CUPs will come directly to the court now. That one passes. Item 20, J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Lester, will you please read 20.1?
This is an ordinance authorizing the county judge to enter into a contract for services with the Association of Arkansas Counties and appropriating $5,874 to be paid for membership therein.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. This ordinance gives us permission, gives the judge permission to enter the contract. By voting yes and supporting this ordinance, you're saying yes to risk management and the health insurance fund for all those employed by the county. A dissenting vote would say, we don't want you to have health insurance or any kind of risk management for the county. So I'd like to make a motion to pass.
Motion by J.P. Ecke on item 20.1, second by J.P. Harbison. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any public comment? J.P. Hires?
This has to do with the health insurance? I thought it was just the risk management fund. I thought that
No,
we
it's
are
the whole thing together.
I thought we
enter
were
in
a
the contract.
self-funded.
You have to enter it.
To have explained it, Brian, that you must be a member to get the insurance for all of our employees.
Okay.
Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Judith Yanez. Patrick Diggins. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Chandra Washington. Suki Hires. Willie Lemming. Ann Harbison. Butch Pond. Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman.
All right, so that ordinance authorizing membership of the AAC is passed. Item 21 is committee reports. J.P. Bowman. This is your committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry. My head's had it tonight. We did have a meeting, and that was on March 4th. We had an update from John Luther about the radio situation, and I'd like for us to go ahead and have another meeting about that very soon. Also, I want to thank Ms. Harbison for bringing Welcome Health here. I had no idea about what was going on up there, and I thought that was a really informative presentation, and I think we need to continue to pursue the medical school up there about returning property there so that we might better manage that. Then we had around the county presentation by Chief Carl Gales that I thought was really good to give us an update on the animal shelter, the buildings and grounds, and the roads. Thank you, sir.
All right, J.P. Bowman. J.P. Harbison, Finance and Budget.
We met and acted on all those issues that we discussed tonight during the Quorum Court meeting. And I want to thank Patrick Deakins for making that amendment because I didn't have time to get that together, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. J.P. Johnson, Jails.
Yes, Judge. The Jail and Law Enforcement Committee met whatever Monday that was last month. We had 3 ordinances on the agenda. We postponed all 3 of those ordinances until the May meeting. At our April meeting, we are going to have a public forum, if you will. We're going to give the public 5 minutes to tell us their solutions to the problem. And we're going to encourage the folks not to tell us the problems. I think we all know what the problems are, but I want to give them a chance to give us solutions that either this court or the sheriff can go perform on.
Go ahead.
That's it.
Thank you, J.P. Johnson. J.P. Pond, Personnel.
I got, almost, there it is. I think my finger's dead. Okay. We had just various and sundry changes in job descriptions and positions, titles. We had a request from Circuit Clerk Kyle Sylvester to change the pay grade of the Deputy Circuit Clerk 2 position. Then we had a request from Assessor Russell Hill to change the position of GIS Coordinator grade 18 to a Business Relations Specialist grade 17. And we had a request from Judge Joseph Wood, yourself, to change 2 part-time positions to 1 full-time desktop support position. And we had a request from Judge Stacy Zimmerman to change the position of Juvenile Officer grade 15 to Juvenile Probation Officer 2 grade 16, and an ERC Juvenile Officer 2 grade 16 to ERC Juvenile Probation Officer. And as I'd said before, we're going to see a lot of this as the county changes and our needs change, what the services we have, we provide to the people. And anyway, that was basically it. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Pine. County Attorney.
I gave a few of you an affidavit from the last year's court on the Tobin CUP that I would ask that you sign, look at, review, make sure it is correct, and sign and get either Patty or Julie to notarize it for you tonight. Otherwise, we will be looking at another summary judgment motion on that project, and we'll lose that again, and we'll lose it on appeal if we do that. And so please, please, please sign these affidavits so that we can at least hopefully stop that. Thank you.
J.P. Lemming.
Mike.
I know you brought up the point about our system here and your hearing and all that, and didn't we give the authority to the judge to look into that?
And we are.
What have you done, have you got anything going, or what kind of a?
We'll have something at your county services meeting.
Service meeting, okay, thank you.
Want to thank our 4-H group.
I don't know how to proceed. I don't know what the proper procedure
Or not Mike.
I don't know what the proper procedure is, but for me commenting right now, but when JP Johnson said we could have 5 minutes to give the report on April that's not sufficient.
Well, it's open to the whole public, so whatever the time slot, so if it's an hour, hour and a half, each person could do as little or as much.
Okay, so
Per person, but he can visit with Mr. Johnson afterwards to help you work through that. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
We're going to give you an hour or 2 hours, and each person can get 5 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
We should call it 1 hour.
You guys see your 4-Hers, make sure you thank them for bringing the goodies. I need a motion. Move to adjourn, Suki Hire, second by J.P. Washington. Thank you. Marathon. Oh, my knees are kicking.